Welcome to the lifting bike rack video. I'm going to show you how to make this bike rack that lifts off the ground using unistrut and off-the-shelf components.
Hey everybody.
Hey guys.
Today we are going to take care of these bikes. As you can see, they are taking up nearly a full bay in the garage, which is always a problem if you have 3 cars. My oldest daughter here.
Hey guys.
She is going to be driving here soon and has a car. And with that, needs to be able to park in the garage so she can charge it. So first thing we're going to do is, as you can see, Belicia is moving the bikes out of the way, and then we are going to paint the wall just to make sure it looks good when it's all finished. All right, here we are done painting.
Yay!
Wall's still drying. We'll just let it dry for just a little bit and then we'll get back to it.
All right, so the first thing that we need to do to make sure this is done right is that we have to determine how big the bike is. So the bikes will attach on the front tire and it'll be lifted up. And the idea is that you'll be able to rotate the bikes back and forth so that you can compact them into the corner. So we need to basically determine a couple different things. One, how far away from the wall we need to be so that the bikes can rotate when they're hanging. And then secondarily, we need to determine how high they need to be up off the ground so that we can actually pull a car up into here. So what you're going to see now is you're going to see basically different measurements that we're going to do to try to determine the height up off the ground for the bikes and basically the distance out from the wall. This is the biggest bike that we have. Likely it's a large frame, so we won't need any more than this even if we get other bikes.
Here to here, 26.5 inches. So from here to about there, 27.5 inches.
So we have a distance of 27.5 inches is the maximum distance on this bike that we would need it to be from the wall. Now the next piece that we will need to do is that we got to determine how high up off the ground it'll need to be. So Belicia, if you'd measure from here all the way to there.
70 inches.
So the bike's 70 inches long. So what we'll do is, so it needs to be 70 inches, plus we need to measure approximately what the height of the car will be. Would you go out there and measure the car real quick?
Yep.
The front of it, the hood.
Oh, 33 feet.
3 feet. So it needs to be 36 plus 70. It's going to be at least 96 inches up off the ground for the top of it. We'll put in a factor of safety and probably take it a little bit higher than that. Here we go. Let's start building. What you see here is a picture of most of the components that you're going to need to build the bike rack. The next 20 seconds or so, I'm going to show you some of the key components that make it functional. The overall project was a lot of fun, and it took many hours to perform. So I sped up the rest of the video just to kind of give you a general idea of how I installed the bike rack and built it. I hope to give you some narration while going through the video to kind of give you a feel for what was important and what was not important. First thing we're doing here is making sure that the height is proper based upon the bike measurements that we needed. The 10-foot strut unistruts work perfectly from a height standpoint. I then checked out made sure and find the studs. Each of the unistruts need to be attached to the stud so that it has the proper strength, so it doesn't pull off the wall and works properly. So as you see here, I'm using a laser level. That laser level will help me to make sure it's perpendicular to the floor, or at least perpendicular to level. There I'm marking the locations to drill the holes for the lag screws. I use a drill bit, the right size drill bit based upon the size of the lag screw, just to make sure that I don't split the wood behind the drywall. Now with the base unistrut holder in place, I'm now attaching the other unistrut holders. I put 3 per unistrut. That provides sufficient strength for the bike rack. The key with the whole unistrut is that they have to be parallel to each other. And the best way to do that is make it perpendicular to level. Once you get everything in place, then there's some bolts you put in behind the unistrut holders that help squeeze the unistrut into place and keep it from moving back and forth. With the first one done, basically doing the same thing with the second one. Using a stud finder to find where the studs are. Once a stud is found, I put in the lower unistrut holder, use a drill to drill out the hole, put in the lag screw and the unistrut. Then I put the unistrut through the unistrut holder, line up the level, the laser level, and then I mark the height of the holes and drill them out. One nice thing about those unistrut holders is once you kind of get one in place, you can put the unistrut in there and it holds it in place while you finish working on the other ones. One thing you've also noticed is down on the bottom right, you can see that I put in the unistrut rack trolley that I purchased. There's actually 2 on each unistrut for a total of 4. Once again, tightening down the bolts behind unistrut, hold it in place. I'm assembling the rack trolleys. Here, as you can see, I'm putting the unistrut together. I'm about ready to cut it. I made a 6 foot long or 6 foot wide bike rack. That distance is just right. It doesn't allow for sag. If you wanted to go longer or wider, you would need to address the sag that happens in the unistrut. So now with each one of them cut at 6 feet, I can start to kind of assemble it just to make sure it all looks proper. During the assembly process, I'm using 1 inch long, 1/2 inch bolts that go through the back of the trolley rack holders and into the unistrut, where there's a unistrut nut that is being screwed into. I'm tightening those up right now. Here you can see that I'm going to install the hoist. I'm actually going to suspend the hoist from the rafters in the ceiling. I'm going to suspend it by a unistrut with 2 unistrut holders. That way I can move it back and forth as necessary.
Once again using lag screws. Now with it in place, I put it on there to kind of see what it looks like. As you can see, the controls, the up and down controls, is not long enough, and neither is the power cable. So I have to take it back down and modify the wiring to make it functional at the right height. As you can see here, I'm taking apart where the power comes into the hoist. What I did is I bought a 15-foot extension cord, and I cut it to the length I needed, a black one, and I'm removing the current power cord here, and I'm going to put the cut and spliced extension cord into the hoist so that when it hangs down, it's at the right height. It's a pretty straightforward and easy process to remove the current power cord or the power cord that comes with it and put in the new one. As you can see, the power cord is now plenty long, and I'm actually going to now modify the second piece of it. It's wiring the up and down switch. With a toggle switch, you're going to have 4 cables in there, so I'm actually going to use 2 Romex 14-2 cables for the 4, even though there's going to be six lines in there. I'm not using the ground cables. I'm also putting them into 2 junction boxes, so the junction box up top is where the control is going to go in, and then I'm going to put a junction drop box on the bottom, and between those 2 junction boxes where I'm using the Romex. You just got to make sure that you match up the cables properly. As you can see here, I'm wiring the Romex now to the toggle switch. As you can see, it functions just fine. I'm plugging it in. Now it's time to clean up the cables, make it look pretty. Try to make it look as nice as possible. Every time I could have wired a box up in the ceiling close to it, but this was a much more practical way of doing it. There you go. Okay, in the process of doing some trial and error on the bike rack itself, using just Unistrut, I determined that it flexes too much with the brackets, and it needed to be really solid from a standpoint of the back of it. So here I'm actually screwing on some pegboard at the right distance. This pegboard gives it some stability and some strength, so it doesn't shift around or get hung up in the Unistrut as it goes up and down. The pegboard, I use pegboard as well, just because the pegboard allows for me to hang hats and other things on the back of it when I get ready to lift it up. I'm using simple self-tapping screws in each of these areas, and I'm putting one in about every 6 inches or so just to make sure there's plenty of strength. And I'm drilling it between the Unistrut holes. So that gave it its left and right shifting stability. Now I need it up and down, shifting stability as well. So I'm going to be putting in some vertical braces of unistrut, some of the leftover unistrut I had. That'll allow me to strengthen the back of the board. There they are. I'm using nuts, unistrut nuts and bolts for that. Two of them was sufficient. I could have done a cross member, but two of them worked just fine. Now I'm going to put in some of the self-tapping screws directly into the unistruts. I drill everything out, typically just to make sure it works properly, and then it allows the screws to go in really easily and hold properly. With that in place, I can put it now on the back wall. I got about 6 inches hangover on each side of the unistrut. I just kind of hooked the hook onto the middle of the unistrut without actually the eyelet in there, so that I could hook up the bottom unistrut trolleys. Here I'm just making sure that they're aligned and that they're vertical, that each piece is sticking out about the same. Now I am tightening them up one by one, making sure that each one is snug. There you go. With that strength, that left and right strength, it really helps. So here I'm putting on the arms. Those are made out of unistrut with the brackets that I showed earlier. I basically have, so the overall dimensions is they're about 20 inches high by 6 inches, or 6 feet long. 20 inches high by 6 feet long. And then they stick out 30 inches from the wall with the unistruts. I've attached each of the unistruts. Now I'm making it all level and tightening everything up as tight as I can get it, while making it level, because you need the whole rack to be level, because the trolleys that you have for the bikes will slide to whatever side it is not level on. So it all needs to be parallel to level. Here I'm going to be putting on the bike trolley unistrut. First and foremost, got to put in all the bike trolley hooks. Now I'm attaching it. And tightening them up. With those in place, you can see it functions just fine. Just a trial real quick before finishing it up. One more thing to make sure that the whole thing works properly. I need to put in actual side panels This helps gives it some stability as well. Keep brackets from moving. So these are pegboard that's cut to the right. So this is pegboard that's cut to the right size and the right angles. And then I'm putting some lag screw or some screws, self-tapping screws in them, just like I did on the other ones. Here I'm just cutting the pegboard to the right size, make it fit properly. And then I'll lag it into place. One thing I didn't talk about is that I had to put you need to put an eyelet, you need to drill in an eyelet to the back of where the hook attaches. By putting in that eyelet, it allows it to actually pull on the area where it has strength. The eyelet goes through the unistrut all the way through. Here it is, loading up the bike rack with all the bikes. Pretty straightforward. You lift the front of the bike up, hook it on one of the hooks. And then as you'll see, I can flip these around and move them around. Works just fine. See, I can flip them around. And there it is. That's how you do it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.